So I posted a dream about a week ago, and um, the dream that I posted a week ago was about 4 or 5 years in the past. And what I didn't mention in that video, because I didn't mention it for this reason, because I didn't know I was going to share this, but I actually had a dream that followed that dream about a month later. And this is a dream I usually don't tell anyone. I probably told 3 or 4 people maybe, um, because it's really it's frightening. It's a frightening dream. If I'm just telling it as a dream, I guess it's not that frightening. But the way I felt it, the how real it was to me, it was frightening. I was glad to wake up. It was like a nightmare, but a living nightmare. It wasn't just some dream and you wake up and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that was a dream. I can see that. But when I woke up from this dream, I was like, wow, that was intense. That was real. That was frightening. But the second dream, I'm deciding to tell now because I mean it was just as real as the first one. Like I said, I could feel everything, the atmosphere, the warmth of the air, um, everything. So if you are a person that is frightened easily and you don't like hearing things like this, or you don't appreciate hearing things like this, turn it off now. I am not trying to scare anyone or put fear in anyone. Um, like my message is always of hope because it's not my message, but it's the gospel message, and that message is of hope in life. And I never want to scare anyone into anything. But this dream, I really feel is important to tell since I've told the other one, and I might as well tell this one. So if you don't want to hear, you can turn it off now. Um, but the dream started off. I was standing on a road, and I was alone where I was standing, but I was not alone as far as there were people everywhere. People everywhere doing everything. The day was bright and beautiful. Like it was one of the prettiest days you can imagine. Like I could feel like I said, the warmth of the air. I could see the clouds in the sky and the blue of the sky. Um, it was just a really pretty day, and everybody was out enjoying it. That's how pretty the day was. Everybody wanted to be out. Everybody was enjoying themselves, and everybody also they were preparing for a celebration. You know, they were starting cookouts and getting ready for something that was coming. It seemed like they were excited about something that was about to come. It was almost like they were in preparation for a holiday, like a July 4th holiday, or but more the way it was like they were counting down to that moment, like you do during New Year's Eve or New Year's and on New Year's Eve. But obviously, in January and in December, it's pretty cold outside, so you don't have any really good days like that. It was just like a Eve kind of day, like a Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, and so everybody was preparing for the holiday that was to come. I don't know what holiday it was because of the time and how people were preparing for it, because usually on July 4th, the day before, you don't really anticipate that day in the same way you do Christmas Eve and um, New Year's Eve. But the atmosphere, the beauty of the day, the celebrations, the enjoyment that we're having, all seemed as if it was like a July 4th kind of thing, an Independence Day. But we had not yet got to that day. That's what I was trying to point out. So I'm standing alone on this road and I'm watching everybody, and I don't feel right. Everybody's enjoying themselves. Everybody's having a good time. But I just had this strange feeling. I just don't feel right. I'm like, why am I not enjoying the day like everyone else? And everybody's having so much fun, and I'm feeling like something isn't right and something's wrong. And people are just doing all kinds of things, just celebrating, partying, having fun. And as I'm standing on this road, one of the things I do notice is that there's flags lining the road. You know, like during a July 4th or during getting close to Independence Day and days like Memorial Day and Veterans Day, flags are displayed heavily everywhere, and usually that they'll line church roads and streets and stuff. So there are these short flags lining the roads, all that road all the way down. People are celebrating and having a good time. And then I noticed, well, obviously everyone noticed this, but as I was standing on the road feeling uncomfortable, all of a sudden I noticed that tornado sirens started to go off, like the test sirens or whatever. And everybody paused for a second and looked up, and they were like, oh, and they're like, all at once, everybody's voice was in this kind of sigh of excitement. It was almost like they thought it was part of the celebration, part of the entertainment that was going to happen. So everybody gave out this loud, like, oh, they were in awe, kind of. And then once the sirens went off, they just went back to doing what they were doing and enjoying themselves like it was nothing. It was like, oh, it's all part of the celebration. They were enjoying it. But as soon as those sirens went off and everybody did that, then the next thing that happened was all the flags. I could see every flag everywhere instantly at once. Almost with the sirens, but not at the exact same time. But they all fell at the exact same time. The flags that lined that road I was standing on, they were American flags, they all fell over at once. And there were flags on school like poles and on house corners that all fell at the exact same time. Fell out their posts, came down the flagpole, fell on the side of the roads. They all just fell at the exact same time. And then once again, everybody looked up, and in a sound of like awe instead of being afraid. I knew this was kind of strange. I knew this was weird. They all let out that sound again, that oh kind of sound. And everybody went back to doing what they were doing again and acted as if it was a part of the celebration. And so now I'm really nervous and kind of frightened, and I'm wondering what's going on, and I'm wondering why no one else is paying attention to this, and everybody's just stuck in their celebrations and just enjoying themselves and not giving this any thought or attention. And then that's when the sky, and it was a beautiful day like I said before, but then the sky started to darken just a little bit, just a little, like almost as if kind of storm tornado weather kind of thing, because it was a beautiful day. It was still warm, but then you get this cool feeling, and it was a little darker. And I looked up and I was like, this isn't right. And then the next thing I noticed is water started to pour in slowly from all sides. There was just water just slowly coming up and building up and building up. And everybody did the same thing. They stopped and looked around, and they were like, oh, everybody at the same time. And then people started playing in the water. The water was rising. There was no rain. It wasn't like it was raining. There's just water building up and building up slowly and slowly and slowly. And people started playing in it. Kids were playing in it. People were grabbing water boards and surfboards and running and sliding on the water and just enjoying themselves, having a good old time. And just finding ways, or kind of like wading in it, sitting in it, everything. And I'm standing there on this road still, just wondering what's going on. I'm looking at my feet, and I'm seeing the water rise up past my ankles and up to my calves, and I'm like, this is not right. Like, something's going on and nobody's paying attention to this. And people continue to play and be excited up until a point. The water started to reach my waistline, and that's when the smaller kids started freaking out, and then the parents started freaking out, and they were picking their kids up, but the water wouldn't stop rising. And that's when I started to move to higher ground, and people were panicking then. They started to freak out then when the water started to rise, and they started to see people drown and people who couldn't swim were starting to drown, and people were panicking and screaming and running around then, and it started to become chaos, and just it turned the day upside down. Well, at that same moment, these tanks started to come in from different places, from different roads. These big military tanks, big military-sized tanks, like jet black military tanks, all black. They started to drive their machines through the water, and these people in this military garb or military uniform, they started to come out of the tanks and direct people to higher ground and into buildings. And everybody was just instantly listening to these guys. But what I noticed about them was they weren't in our military's uniform. Like our military, what I see when I see the people who are in the military walking around in the malls or whatever, they have distinct military uniforms that we know to be our militaries. Whether it's the Marines or the Army, they have their own set, but you know, hey, that's our military. These guys were in jet black uniforms, almost like SWAT uniforms, but without the SWAT on the shirt. They had this red insignia on their shirt or logo, this small red logo, just a little small red logo, which I don't remember how it looked in detail, but all black, little red logo, all black tanks, giant tanks, and they were telling people, forcing them into buildings, and these buildings were like big super centers like Walmart and Target and just big department stores, and they were telling people go inside, and everybody was just scooping their kids and running with their loved ones inside of these buildings, and they were just like happy to have somebody direct them to tell them where to go. And they were like, oh, they're just helping us, they're here to help, it's the military, they're here to help us. But me, I was still afraid. I was like, I've never seen anybody in the military in all black like this. I've seen SWAT, and I don't think special forces would be out here helping to do this. But they were forcing us into these buildings like Walmart and Target and just these big department stores, and people were willingly going in and just going and piling in. And I remember in this dream, my brother was in the dream with me. He's a year younger than I am. He wasn't with me up until this point when they started to force us into these buildings. That's when I saw my brother, and we went and stood by each other while all these people were crowded around in huddles just talking amongst themselves. And I remember there was just one guy. He had a big machine gun, big military weapon, standing in front of the crowd of people, just like standing in front of the entrance, and he was just standing there, and people were talking amongst themselves, and you could tell everybody was still in panic, but it wasn't just a bunch of chaos. And we're standing inside this Walmart, and then a guy stepped forward. It was an older guy, probably in his 50s, late 50s, early 60s, and he was like, hey, I don't want to be here. I don't want to stay here. I don't have to stay here. I would like to seek my own shelter, my own safety. And the guy that was standing in the uniform, the black uniform, just told him, get back in the group. Back up, get back in the group. And the guy's like, no, I don't want to be here. This is against my rights. I have rights as an American citizen or a citizen of the United States. I have rights, and I have the right to seek my own safety and shelter. I have the right to protect myself the way I see fit, and I do not want to be here. And he started to get really upset and unruly, and the guy was just telling him to get back in the group of people now, get back. And everybody's watching this go on, and this guy's arguing. He's like, I don't want to be here. You can't hold me against my will. This is illegal. This is against my rights. And the guy said, okay, fine, follow me. He was like, fine, follow me. The guy in the military, the black SWAT military uniform or whatever it was. So the guy steps out, and he starts to follow the guy with the big machine gun down this hall. And that's when I grabbed my brother, and I was like, dude, let's go. I don't want to be here either. So we started to follow them as well, but we followed at a distance. I wanted to keep my distance from the guy because I didn't know what was really going on. And so me and my brother are following at a distance to where they can't see us. And the guy walks the upset individual through a door out to, like, they're basically outside, but you can see outside, but we're still in the building. And when they walk through the door and we're peeking around the corner, and the guy's like, alright, basically he's saying he's free to go. And as the guy starts to leave, the guy with the machine gun mows him down, just kills him, shoots him dead. And that's when me and my brother knew this was completely wrong. Obviously we knew something was wrong then, and we took off running. We just ran as fast as we could away from the building. We ran as fast and as far as we could away from the building, and we didn't look back until we got really, really, really far away. And when we turned around, we were standing on the road, and we turned around and we looked back, and we could see that Walmart we were just in, and we could see a Target in the distance, and we could see other big buildings just full of people that had been forced into these buildings. And we were outside, standing outside. There was no more water issues or anything anymore, but people were all in these buildings. And we could see all the buildings at once. We saw them all at once. And one by one, those buildings were blown up. They were blown up one by one. And we would see them go off. The first one we were just in blew up. And it had to have hundreds and hundreds of people inside of it. I'm talking, it was packed out. And it was blown up. And then the next Target was blown up. And then the next building was blown up. And it's just like you could see all these buildings being blown up one by one, with the people inside and the guys with the military, the guns or whatever. There was a guy in the Walmart. It was just one guy with a gun, but we saw that happen, and so we ran a little further, and we started to see these tanks that were like almost patrolling the streets. The tanks were riding up and down the streets, so we were trying to stay out of sight and stay off the road. And I know the story is getting, this dream is getting really fantastical and outrageous, but this is the dream I had, and it felt very real, and I'm going to continue. If you want to continue to listen, you can. But so we were searching for somewhere to basically get off the road and hide, and so we were going through the town, the cities, just walking by things, trying to stay off the road. Every time we would see one of these big giant tanks, these black tanks, we would hide for a while, and then when they passed, we'd get out and walk some more. Well, we saw this big gated community, this large giant gated community. It had a brick wall all the way down, and the gate was probably, I don't know, maybe 100 and something yards away. And we decided, let's get on the other side of that gated community, and find shelter in there. We can get on the other side. We won't be visible anymore to these tanks. So we climbed that big brick wall, and we jumped on to the other side. And to our surprise, when we got to the other side of the wall, there was this really wealthy people, and they were just celebrating and enjoying themselves. And we would see different things as we were walking. They were trading cars and stuff. They were like brand new. Not brand new, but these antique, classic cars, and they were showing them and trading them and just enjoying themselves, drinking wine and having like a good old time. And I was like, do they not know what's going on outside of this wall? Do they not know that there was just these issues going on, this flood, this blowing up of buildings, people dying, all this stuff that was going on? Like, they were living like it didn't even happen, or it wasn't even going on. It never even happened. And so we continued to walk and continued to see different things like that, people celebrating in different ways. And we decided to pick a building to go into. There was this big house we decided to go into. And so we went in to the house, and when we walked in through the door, there was just a bunch of people doing all kind of inappropriate things that I won't describe on. You can just imagine yourself what we saw, what I saw in this dream, and what it was just some inappropriate things going on of a sexual nature. And the guy looked up, one of the guys looked up and saw us, and they yelled, they're like, "What are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. Why are you here?" And they got up and we ran through the hallway, ran through a back room and climbed out of a window. And so when we climbed out of the window, we ran through some yards into another house. But we came up from the bottom of the house. It was like a basement type area we came up through. And when we got up there and we opened the door and walked through the door, we saw a group of people, maybe 11 or 12 people. They were all kneeled down, praying. They were dressed in all white clothes. They had all white on. And they looked like they were praying. They were all knelt down. And when we walked through the door, we startled them, and they looked back at us. And we were startled because of what we had just experienced previously. We thought we were going to, something was going to happen to us. And so we got positioned to take off running again. And one of the guys spoke up. He stood up off the floor and he said, "It's okay. It's all right." And then we stood there, and he just looked at us with this real gentle look and gentle voice, and he said, "Come pray with us. Just come pray." And they were all knelt down. And so me and my brother walked over. I was, still kind of unsure, but I walked over with them, and the guy just touched us on the shoulder and knelt down with us, and he was just real kind, and I had this real peaceful feeling about him. And we bent down and started to pray with them. And then after maybe, a little while of praying, just a little bit of time passed. And then there was this loud bang on the front door, just really loud. Doom, 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 doom. And the guy calmly gets up, just as calm as he did when he walked over to us. And he smiled at us, and he said, "Come with me." And he walks us up to the refrigerator. He moves the refrigerator aside, and there's this door behind the refrigerator. And he says, "Go inside." And we go inside, and he closes the door, but he doesn't close the door all the way. And he pushes the refrigerator back. But we can see through the crack of the door and see past the refrigerator what was going on. And then he calmly walks to the door and he answers it. And it's a group of those military guys in their black uniforms. And they just burst their way into the door, and they started asking questions. And no one would speak but the guy who had spoken to us originally. And they were asking, "Have you seen any people running through this area, this neighborhood?" And the guy sat there and he was like, "What do you mean? I haven't seen anybody running anywhere." He was just real calm and nice. He's like, "You haven't seen anyone?" And he said, "I don't know what you are referring." He was like, "Just saying, I don't know what you mean. I don't know what's going on," in this real calm voice. And they were like, "Have you seen anyone?" And then he looked at the people sitting down on the floor, and he was like, "Yes, I've seen a few people. I've seen them. I've been talking to them. I see people all the time." And the guy says, "Go stand over there." And the calm guy stands over with the group of people that were knelt down praying, that were dressed in all white. And they start to look around and the military guys started to look around and rummage through stuff. And then once they didn't find anything, they stopped and they turned to the people in the uniforms, and then they just mowed them down, just shot them up, just killed everybody. And that was the end of my dream.